What's up guys and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be looking at the 3 best gods to get started with in ADC carry role. This role takes skill and these will be all hunters as they are the best for the role. With these I'd like to help players get better at roles that they aren't comfortable with, and I'll be doing lists for all roles in order to help you get better. If you're relatively new to Smite and want to get better and improve in every role, please don't hesitate to subscribe and get in touch with me with any questions. With that said, let's get into the 3 best gods. So the first god on our list is going to be Artemis. Artemis has been a staple god in Smite for years and has always seen an acceptable amount of play. She has a rather basic kit and is very easy to grasp once you start to play her. She's a very high damage late game god and has a great kit for the late game. She will allow you to learn the mechanics of ADC and help you understanding the role very well. Now it's time to get into her kit, some tips and tricks. So her passive is a basic damage increase, a 15% on gods and 30% on minions that are afflicted by CC. In terms of her other abilities, learning how to use the passive is a big help in understanding passive abilities in general. Her first ability is a trap that you can place on the ground and roots enemies for 2 seconds to stand in them, also providing some tick damage as well. This is good to use to set up gods that you're chasing or escaping with the absence of a dash. This is a big part in helping Artemis escape from sticky situations. Her 2 is a basic attack speed and movement speed steroid that can be procced every 14 seconds on max cooldown. This gives Artemis the help in 1v1 fights in the laning phase and burning objectives like Gold Fury and Fire Giant in the late game. Her movement speed as well, providing Artemis with another getaway tool in the absence of a dash. So her 3 is an AoE damage ability that provides a fair amount of damage and a slow of 25% that lasts 2 seconds. This is Artemis' main damaging ability and wave clearing technique and can be pivotal in finishing a kill or an initiation for a fight. The slow it provides can help set up a 1v1 in lane and help you and your other abilities and get a nice solo kill. And Artemis' ultimate is arguably the most important part of her kit. She summons a boar that does damage and stuns any gods it hits from 1 second and scaling up to 1.5, and can also stun multiple enemies in a row if they are within range. This ability can be pivotal in the late game team fights. The stun can help your team get free damage on a target after it has been stunned. And now that we've gone through our abilities, let's get into some builds, tips and tricks. So Artemis has a few ways that she can be built, and it's when to know how to build against enemy team comps. A basic starter would be a Hunter's Blessing and tier 1 Spike Gauntlet with 3 health and 1 mana. This helps with early sustain in the laning phase and allows you to build up gold to get more starter items as the game progresses. After these starter items, you'll be looking to go into Ninja Tabi, upgrade your Spike Gauntlet to Devourer's Gauntlet. This item requires stacking from minion kills, which you get 1 stack and 5 stacks for an enemy kill up to 70 stacks. Into a penetration item, either Assay if you're in need for the sustain if you're getting into trouble, and Executioner for penetration against the tanks. After these, you're looking to go into crit items. I'd recommend Rage and Deathbringer. Then if the game's gone long enough, sell your Blessing for kin size for tank shredding, and sell your boots for Atalanta's bow. In this case, where the enemy team has quite a bit of healing, pick up a Toxic Blade to combat against that. Now that we've covered builds, let's get into some simple tips and tricks in order for you to improve your game with Artemis. As mentioned above, Artemis doesn't have a dash for escapes, so you rely on your other abilities to help you out of tough situations. In the case of a gank, your ultimate can help you, giving you time for escape. Even if your back is turned and you cast your ultimate, it'll hit the first target in the radius and others as well. This can help with a getaway and help you survive. The next tip is using your CC chain to secure a kill. In the laning phase, placing down a trap and rooting your enemy can be a great tool in the 1v1. The combo you'd like to use would be 3 to slow, placing down a trap and root your enemy, popping your 2 for more auto attack damage, and if you need the finishing touch, use your ultimate for some secure. Another side tip would be to place traps in the crevices of the lanes so that you can root your enemy jungler before you can have the chance to gank. So that's the first god for beginners, so let's get into the second. So number 2 on the list is going to be Cupid. While Artemis has a heavy influence on her auto attacks, Cupid has a slightly different playstyle. While his auto attacks are important, he uses his abilities to set up kills and find his autos to hit harder. Let's get into his abilities. Cupid's passive is a build up of 8 stacks that you get from hitting auto attacks, and when these 8 stacks reach, there are extra effects on your abilities, and I'll go through these when I go through the abilities. So Cupid's 1, Heart Bomb, is a line ability that explodes and deals damage after 3 seconds. With the passive stacks, when it detonates it stuns the target and everyone around it. Cupid's second ability is it summons 3 hearts that provide him with healing and to you and your allies, and if your allies pick them up it replenishes mana for Cupid, and with the passive stacked it just provides more healing in each heart. This ability is rather simple to grasp and can help us sustain in the lanes. Cupid's 3 is a dash that leaves behind a trail that increases movement speed for your teammates when they walk into it. And the ultimate is a giant AoE that does high amounts of damage and mesmerizes the enemy if they're in the area when it detonates. The beauty of this ultimate is that you can only escape it by using your relics. When in the area of the ultimate, you can't use dashes or jumps, which help this ultimate stand out of all other hunter ultimates in Smite. And now that we've went through his abilities, we can go into builds, tips, and some tricks. So Cupid builds very similar to Artemis. You start with tier 1 Spike Gauntlet and a Hunter's Blessing and your potions, and then buying your Ninja Tabi and stacked up Devourer's Gauntlet. But with Cupid, you're more likely to get an Executioner or Crit third item, such as Rage or Deathbringer, then a pen item from that tree of items. And in the situation of healers, purchase a Toxic Blade or an Atalanta's Bow. Cupid's builds, you're looking for high power, high damage, and that's it. He doesn't need anything really special. He doesn't need oboe like some hunters. So stick to these items and I'm sure you'll be okay. So now that we've gone through builds, let's get into some tips and tricks for Cupid. For Cupid, you're almost always looking to get the one and ultimate combo off. The base damage alone will always finish off an enemy squishy, especially in the late game when you can get 2 to 3 autos off in the time before detonation. This can be really devastating to the enemy team in general, so try to prioritize this combo over anything else. Another tip for Cupid is that if you're sieging an enemy phoenix or tower, as soon as you get that tower down, be sure to dash straight away. This gives your allies chance to get away with the movement speed buff that Cupid gets from this and can be a real difference in getting away from the enemy team. Another tip I recommend in the late game is to drop your 2 whenever you can. This can help your team in sustaining and could be the difference between allies surviving or dying. It's on a relatively low cooldown, so you can just drop it whenever you can in the safest places for your team. Cupid is a fantastic god to learn. His abilities that do damage are very strong, and he has massive AoE abilities that can become the difference maker in the late game and turning that L into a W. He can fit into any team comp and isn't reliant on certain gods to help him. He can be picked in any team composition and get to work rather easily. And our third hunter in the list is going to be Jigme. Jigme is arguably the most safe hunter of these three. Her kit is perfect for a newcomer but also has the depth to it for a new player to the role to learn, and has built-in mechanisms which can help as well, which we will get into. Jigme's passive is one of the best in the hunter class, especially for the early game. As you see from the fountain, you're able to float your way to the tier 2, which helps in keeping up in the laning phase and ensuring you don't fall behind. So let's get into her abilities. Her first ability is a small area gust that sends enemies up in the air and provides good damage and can interrupt enemies out of the chain. This ability has a follow-up use as well. When Jing goes into it, she receives an attack speed buff scaling from 20% up until 40% when fully leveled up. This is great for having an advantage in a 1v1 fight with the enemy ADC and has a multi-use. Allows for you to use this ability to damage and then follow up on your enemies with the abilities buff for some serious poke. Jigme's second ability is an auto attack buff which provides Jigme with the ability to do damage to multiple targets at a time, but the beauty in this ability is it provides you with built-in crit chance as you rank up the ability. As the game goes on, you can get up to 20%, which is a really great asset to have in the late game. And Jigme's third ability is a dash that provides you with extra power and movement speed after use, and can be used if Jigme is knocked up in the air, and could be used with a combination of her first ability for the full buff for a short time in all aspects of her kit. And finally, Jigme's ultimate is an AoE airstrike that provides damage in a line for anyone that gets caught in it, and when she finishes casting it, she can land wherever she pleases as she floats in the air for about 1.5 seconds. This ability can also be used as an escape and an initiation, so when and how to use it is completely to your own volition. So now that we've ran through her abilities, let's get into some builds, tips and tricks. Jigme's build has a very high reliance on crit chance and penetration. Again, start off with the Blessing tier 1 gauntlet with your potions, upgrade it to Devo's gauntlet and get a Ninja Tabi. Depending on how the game is going, if you're ahead, go straight into the Rage and then an Executioner or Asi if you're struggling with sustaining a fight. Then build into a Deathbringer and into either a Poison Star or Wind Demon as the game progresses. This provides you with enough crit chance that you can shred the enemy team. With Jigme you have great escape techniques and great engagement techniques. Her use of the 1 and 3 in order to dash to safety is a great tool, but also using the 1 before going into a team fight and getting the buff can be really helpful in getting those autos off and destroying the enemy team with your extensive critical chance. Another tip for Jigme is that if you're defending at your base like a phoenix, use your passive to advance to the backline. That can be a really good technique. It helps you in avoiding the frontline enemies like the solo and support, and allows you to get to work on the enemy squishies and depriving the enemy team of their main damagers. So that's what I believe to be the 3 best gods to start off with in the carry role. If this video was a good help to you, please hit that subscribe button, it would really help me out. And in addition to these, I'll be working on basic overviews for each role to help you understand it better so that you can start to learn all these roles in Smite and build up your game. Stay tuned for the upcoming gods for each role and the overviews. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon.